If we're always waiting for a leader, that means that we have to be led by something. Then we get mad when another culture leads us in the way that they want us to go. We got to take responsibility for all rescue.
This your boy Ty Corbett, host of the No Excuse Podcast. We'd like to welcome you in, and if you want to learn more about staying motivated, staying tuned in, this is the place to be. We make no excuses for being great. So from mindset to motivation, from entrepreneurship to being helpful in your community, this is the place to be. Watch, look, listen, and learn. Stay tuned in. So thank you for tuning in. I have a special guest in the building today. He is phenomenal. He's amazing. He is the smartest, one of the smartest brothers that I know. And it's been an honor and a pleasure to meet him and to be associated with him because he's doing such amazing things in the community. And everywhere he goes, he's touching people from our country to overseas. I would like to introduce you to Mr. Dr. J.C. Baker. Thank you for being here.
Man, Todd, thanks so much, man. I appreciate you, man. I appreciate the enthusiasm that you have. It's always a pleasure to be with you, man. And you talking about representing the DYT. Well, you know, I'm representing the Detroit nation like always. So what up, though?
Man, thank you so much, man. And we like cousins. We like cousins, for real. So thank you so much for being here. And as always, you know, the No Excuse Podcast is really to give individuals their flowers and give recognition to what the phenomenal things they've been able to achieve and overcome obstacles while making no excuses. And you are the epitome of that. You have been doing such great things in the community and before that. So I want to give you a second just to tell everybody, our listeners, our viewers, and give you an opportunity just to explain what you're doing, and where you come from, how you got here, and all the great things that you got going on.
Man, I tell you, it's been a journey. You know, it's funny when you look back on your life and you think about how fast time goes.
Yeah.
When you're in the more gray, I get into my beard, I'm thinking, man, it's time is just ticking away. But you know, I own the only business hospital in the world. I invented the industry 7 years ago. We're now in 14 countries on 5 continents. We've helped over 1,100 businesses. I've only lost 2 on my watch in that time, so I'm very proud of that record. We have a goal now that we transitioned our business model some to help nearly 7,000 businesses in the next calendar year. And so we're working on with some large partners to help us provide subsidized treatment to these businesses.
Yes.
I know a lot of times my speech throws people off because they're like, what do you mean treatment? And who are these patients? Well, we look at business the same way that the medical profession looks at the body. And so I'm an actual business doctor. My PhD is in business and leadership, and I'm completing my second doctorate in artificial intelligence and engineering. So we look at things from a very scientific standpoint, from a health standpoint, from a terminal, highly academic standpoint.
Yes.
And then we attach that to the many decades of success that we've had in business. When I say we, I'm talking about my practitioners and my hospital wings. And so we do this to the benefit of all business owners trying to figure out what to do in this world.
Man, you're phenomenal, man. I told you you're one of the smartest people I know. That's great. And so if you could just give us a little back story of how you even got there, because that's a lot to get there. You know, business hospital. How did we get there?
Yeah. So, you know, after you work in a lot of places, you know, you find fault everywhere that you work. No matter what business owner I ever met, they started that business, whether it was from a passion, whether it was they thought they could make money. Mm-hmm. But a lot of them because they hated their boss or they hated the processes of where they worked and they thought they could do it differently. So as I, you know, matriculated through corporate America, I became known as a person that had solutions and remedies for things. And so my history determined that I know how to grow a business. I know how to launch new ideas. I know how to get the most out of human capital. So I decided to credential around that. Hence the reason why I got my PhD in business and in leadership was because that was already the natural thing that I was already doing. However, I didn't start with that premise. When I started my company after leaving corporate, we were just a management consulting firm going out offering our knowledge. And I was talking to a couple of my teammates and I said, you know what, guys, where does anybody go when they have a problem with their business? If you got sick, if you cut your hand in the kitchen, if you didn't know what was wrong with your child, you would just run to the hospital. If you had a pet, you would run to the vet. Mm-hmm. Where does a business go for general care? And we couldn't come up with a legitimate answer. It was Google, it was seminars, it was Chamber of Commerce.
Yeah.
And we were like, all of this is inadequate. And so we change the structure of the business. Right then and there, we stopped all the stuff that we were doing, and we said, let's make a pivot real quick. And so I started looking into everything from the assets to how would it be done. Is there a methodology that we could stand on that could be proven? And so it took us time to do that. And so I invented the Business Health Index, and then I invented the Investment Health Index, which are our two indice models that we lean on to provide that treatment. And those two levels of methodologies include other methodologies. So whether you're talking general accounting practices or you're talking Six Sigma, it includes those as well. But all of those venture into the version of health. And so that's where it started. It was a brainchild of saying, let's reduce this to something where everyone can benefit. So whether if you're a barbershop, you need treatment.
Yeah.
If you are a catering company, you need treatment. But make no mistake, if you're Procter & Gamble, you need treatment as well.
Yes.
In that instance, we knew that it would be universally applied. We just had to figure out the method in order to do so, and we were able to come up with that.
Wow. So with that, because understanding that, what's the biggest hurdle you face with these companies and with some of the smaller, especially some of the smaller business? Because I know that the hurdles that you may face with the smaller companies versus the larger companies will be different. So can you talk to us about what hurdles you face versus one versus the other, and what is the comparison and contrast to this?
Really, all the problems and the hurdles are identical. And you think that they're different until you get into them. So I'm going to use a sport analogy. If you got someone that plays Little League football, their problems are the same as someone that plays in the NFL. They're just bigger problems. The same thing, blocking, tackling, catching, running. Business is identical. So what you find is that most businesses suffer because they don't have capital and they've got bad people. So how do we fix those two things? Well, you got large companies that undergo massive cuts every year, to the tune of hundreds of millions of dollars of jobs lost. Of places that you're like, how did they make those cuts? That's a large company and they've been doing well because they're suffering from the same thing. They have bad business practices, bad systems, bad models. The people don't do as well as they should, so they go through hiring and human capital issues. It's the same even if you're a micro business and you've got one employee and two contracted vendors helping you, you're still dealing with the same thing. So with us, we look at really the health metric of your ability. Are you maxing out your ability? So when we talk stats, for an example, 67% of businesses fail in the first 4 years, 75% don't make it to 10. Well, what causes that? A business will try to position themselves similar to someone else's business without the right inputs. So they'll say, hey, what did you do, Ty? Oh, man, that's a good idea. Or they'll look online, get an idea for someone, but they don't know how to integrate that. It's still different than looking at a marriage and say, what'd you do in your marriage? Your wife ain't my wife. So how am I going to implement that? But communication might be the bottom line. Okay. So in those instances, we take the large subset of whatever it might be, then we apply it to you directly. The biggest hurdle is getting someone to understand that they need treatment even in the beginning because they feel really good about their own skill set. They don't understand that their skill set doesn't encompass the whole business.
So that was, and I think that was the question I was trying to get to, and you answered it without me saying it. How do you convince the individual businesses, especially when you got a large business that on paper, they look like they're doing very well, versus sometimes, especially with the smaller companies, the startup companies who are like, man, I'm struggling, I don't know what to do. It seems like they would be more susceptible to saying, hey, I do need this help. I do need this treatment. I'm running to.
Well, and that's really the key for us. That's why we're a hospital. I'm not searching or working to convince anybody of anything. By the time you get to me, you would have already had to submit to the work that we do. If I got to sit here to try to meeting after meeting, try to convince you that you have a problem, that's problematic. Not to mention, it might take me all of about 4 minutes to find out if you know what you're doing or not, because we know what we're looking at.
Yeah.
So if I go in and I say, hey, how's your pro forma looking? What's a pro forma? There you know, all of a sudden, we got a problem line.
Yeah.
Right? If I go in and I say, well, how long is your sales cycle?
And they don't know what it is.
What's your running conversion rate? What's your cost of customer acquisition? I mean, I go all day.
Yes.
And the moment you don't have an answer, is the moment I know you got a problem, but furthermore, you know you got a problem.
Yeah. So listen, for you businesses out there that think that y'all got it under control and y'all just didn't know what none of those terminologies were, you might need to go and see the business hospital. You might need to make sure you're there.
Well, you know what's funny about that, Ty, is that some people think that you don't need all of that to run a business, but statistically, it is proven that businesses just fail. There's 144,000 new businesses a day that are being created.
Yes.
So when 56% of them fail in the first year, what that tells you is you might not fail in the first year, but it is an epidemic of failure. We call that business morbidity. So I'm not throwing terms out there to demonstrate intellect. These are terms that govern your business, right? So we go back to pro forma. What's a pro forma? It's really a collection of financial documentations that demonstrate your financial health. So if you don't know your business model, you don't have the right inputs for your forecast, how could you run it past 3 years if you don't have to? It's really obvious, but it's not obvious to the person that doesn't think about those things.
And the crazy part about it, I just taught a class over business. I was still in there for Whitney, and she said, "Hey, I just want you to come in and talk to them about business and managing your time and working part time and doing a business and being an entrepreneur part time and kind of talk to him about that." And so the class was phenomenal. We're talking about it, and I said, "Hey, what's the biggest problem that you think you might have with a startup company?" All of them say money. All of them say capital. So I said, "No, you're wrong." And they was like, "What?" I said, "Research." None of y'all do research. None of y'all have no idea what. I said, "Do you look at your statistics? Do you look at your demographics? Do you look at the people you're serving? Who's your target?" They have no clue. I said, "But everybody raised their hand about being an entrepreneur. But nobody had done any research about what business they wanted to do. But they all had business ventures that they were doing." I was like, "Where's your number? Where's your statistics? Who did you get this? So when you're saying that, and well, look, this is for you. This is free game. We charge for this. You want to make sure that you have these documents, these understand the terminology that's being used. You need help. So make sure you go and understand what this is and what the need is, because to run a business, these numbers don't lie. Business, and I'm going to add another number to y'all. Most people fail at their first 3 tries at business. Am I right? Mm-hmm. Their first 3 business ventures, not the first 3 times they attempt that one business. These are different business ventures. So they need to make sure that they understand that this is not something we're begging about a thin air. This is real number.
Well, you talked about something. You said research. One thing that we're very big on in our treatment are words.
Mm-hmm.
Because the words govern your action. And so a lot of times we're using the wrong words. I'll use a couple examples of this. We use startup synonymously with new business, and it isn't the case. Startup is when you disrupt an industry. That's why Uber is still a startup, because they disrupted that industry. If you have a brand new company, you're just a new business. And so when it comes to a new business, let's just think about this in its most commonsensical way. If you had a business in 1965 and you wanted to sell tires, you had to make sure that you had tires.
Yes.
And you had to make sure you had a uniform and a point of sale system and a building and an employee. Where did that come from? You walked yourself down to the bank and you gave them whatever credit and collateral you had to match whatever cash you might have had in order to have those things before you sold one tire. We've now, fast forward and accelerated to today's terms, and we think like, oh, I'm gonna start a business, and because I can go to Frank LaRose, Secretary of State, and get me an EIN real quick, that I'm now a CEO of a thing, and now I need money to run my business, so I got to start. Everything about your thinking, your verbiage, your activity is all wrong, and that's going to contribute to your accelerated failure. So when you talk about research, it's really understanding all the components in and around the business itself. But we're too instant. And so because we're too instant, which is fine, you can want it now, but you got to cut the check for wanting it. And if you don't have enough money to cut the check, then you need time.
Yes.
But someone else isn't going to finance your failure.
Yes.
Well, we think somebody will. Man, can I get to these grants, bro? You want them to finance your failure? You want the You want the federal government to finance your failure. Hey, man, I know you know some angels out here, man. So you think they're in business to lose the dollars on you. And so we have to fix that mindset. That mindset literally is an epidemic that plagues business owners.
And please speak to the people, because this is, I get this all the time. And we have individuals come and they say, I don't want no loan. I ain't getting no loan. I just want a grant.
Right.
And they think it's, well, let me say what they really say. I want some free money.
Right.
It's not free.
Well, number one, it's not free because it comes from a place.
Yes.
And so the better business does in an area, the more taxes are drawn from that. And then that's what allows those buckets and pools to be available. However, we do have a misnomer on debt finance as if it's bad. Mm-hmm. But we think it's bad. Now, I'm saying we, and I'm stereotyping, and I'm saying a whole bunch of stuff that probably isn't politically correct, but like black folk think that's bad because retail debt has been cancer to the black family.
Yes.
And so because we've used it incorrectly, we now avoid it and don't know what to do with it. Whereas other societies and other cultures, and I know this because we do business in 14 countries, they built empires off of debts and being able to know how to leverage and use it, which is why leverage is an actual financial term of how to be able to use and access those dollars. But if your plan is broken, and I'm not talking your business plan, I'm talking your execution plan, and they're not the same. So if your plan is broken and you don't really understand your industry, you won't understand how to use the debt. And therefore, it will become a cancer too.
Yes. Yes. And that's so important because I think, number one, and we do this all the time. We have financial literacy programs. We do our hour every month, last Thursday of the month. But we do these financial literacy programs. And Dr. Becker, you have been so gracious to come on our platform so many times and give these seminars and talk about these things. And we have to utilize these tools because we have to make a change. If we generally and truly want to be great at business or be better at business, we have to take the opportunity to learn, but not only learn from the people who are doing it right. Mm-hmm. And so when you've come across individuals that say, oh, I do want to do it right. I'm coming to your seminars. I'm doing these things. Once they start getting there, how do you leverage and keep them in a place of longevity and sustainability?
Well, you got competing factors. It's like the stomach. How many people you know say, man, I got to get in shape, I want to get some abs, so they start doing sit-ups and crunches. Mm-hmm. And you're like, well, why are you doing that? And they do it because it makes sense to them that if I did a stomach exercise, it would produce a muscle in my stomach.
Yes.
But the reality is, if you look at the muscle skeleton, you already have abs. You just got fat on top of it. Mm-hmm. So now we got to eliminate the fat, which has everything to do with eating habits, cardio, water intake, stress, on and on. Mm-hmm. But they eliminate those other bits.
Yeah.
So the reality is we have to be mindful of what we're putting on. A lot of people do entirely too much. They listen to too many people, right? So I'm at this seminar, I'm at this podcast, I talked to my uncle, I talked to my pastor, I talked to my best friend, I'm talking to my neighbor, I've been Googling.
Yeah.
But now the information is conflicted. And so because it's conflicted, you become paralyzed. You actually don't do anything.
Yeah.
As opposed to picking a direction, picking a legitimate team, and then executing the direction in which you want to go in. Mm. For an example, if I use a sport example, there's a bunch of ways to win a Super Bowl. There's a bunch of ways to win the NBA finals, right? You had Denver won last year with a center, a big running their offense. Golden State does it with smalls that can shoot far. LeBron's done it with athleticism and cutting to the basket. There's a bunch of ways to do it. What you can't do is try to do them all. Mm-hmm. You try to do them all, you will not win. You're up nothing.
Yes.
So you got to pick a lane and pick a team that can then balance out what you're doing so you can go in the right direction.
That, when you say that, there's so many ways to win. I've always heard 2 + 2 = 4, right? 2 + 2 = 4. That's 3. But I don't believe it. And I never believed it. 2 + 2 is how you get to 4. Mm-hmm. Because 3 + 1 is how you get to 4. Mm-hmm. 5 minus 1 is how you get to 4. You see, yeah. So when we think of that in business, why do we have to do exactly what, I'm going to? So there's so many different ways to get to the bottom line. And if I want to sustain my business, I want to be sustainable. I want to be, we talk about that, longevity, sustainability, and all these things that we want to do. You said there's so many ways to get to a championship, right?
Mm-hmm.
And when I ask you how y'all do that, you have a clear-cut answer.
Mm-hmm.
But for me, what I heard was I can go to the expert and I can learn this.
Mm-hmm.
But what I need to do is I need to learn the knowledge. I have to learn some things and put some things in place so that I can execute.
Mm-hmm.
I can execute.
But see, you talking championship, meaning that for the purpose of our dialogue, championship equals success, which is based on whatever parameter we give it.
Mm-hmm.
So I was just talking with a trucking professional on the way here,
Mm-hmm.
one of our patients, and as I'm talking with them, he was talking about scale.
Mm-hmm.
And so scaling bothers me when I hear the term.
Mm-hmm.
Other entities love that term. If you talk to municipalities, they always want to talk about scale. And I'm just like, no, scale is not the only measure of what makes a business good.
Yeah.
Some businesses should downsize and run lean for 50 years. And then acquisition after that, or be positioned for acquisition.
Mm-hmm.
So what are you saying, Doc? For an example, if you scale, and let's say in his instance, I'm going to go get 10 trucks.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you just created more inventory,
Mm-hmm.
and you just created more people, and you just created more cost. How many more runs can you make, and do you have the internal controls in order to handle that?
Mm-hmm.
Or can you just alter your positioning, and maybe you offer your services to 3 entities that can sustain you individually with a smaller crew that can then take advantage of the time when you can't do it.
Mm-hmm.
Now you've personally made more money.
Mm-hmm.
Your company didn't scale, but I'll use numbers for that. You can be a $10 million company where the owner is making 80 grand, or you can be a $2 million company and the owner's making 200 grand. Right? One makes more sense than the other.
Yes, absolutely.
Right? Or it could be, what if I don't care about the extra 50, but I don't have to work 40? I can work 20.
Yes.
And because at a time in my life, working 20 is a benefit because maybe my child is playing a sport in college.
Yeah.
Like my best friend's was, and we went yesterday to go see him. That time off is important as opposed to trying to make extra dollars. So how you run your business has everything to do with how you're measuring success. That's why you have to look at your ability and the path that you choose. That's the championship.
Well, free game. We keep telling y'all, in addition to that, and when you talk about the trucking industry, I clearly understood because I had a trucking company and I ran a trucking company and we did very well. But when COVID hit, we were losing money because the routes, the price of what we were typically getting the route for had decreased. Amazon was not paying. They were paying us double pre-COVID for the same route. They cut it in half.
Mm-hmm.
And so then I looked at it, I said, okay, I'm doing Amazon routes, but I'm making less money doing more work. Mm-hmm. So what I did was I said, I'm cutting Amazon out all the way. And then we just going to run from PA, Pennsylvania, to furthest we're going to go is Illinois, Chicago. And we just going to run that route. That's it. We're not going to go nowhere else. And I'm taking my trucks off of Amazon. My driver's going to come on every weekend. And I was bringing 10 grand a week just off of 2 trucks.
Mm-hmm.
So it made more sense to, instead of running 5 trucks at Amazon, to run 2 trucks, and I made way more money.
But if you talk to the average person, 5 trucks sounds like more. And it's just like when children look at money and you teach them money for the first time and you show them a nickel and you show them a dime and they want the nickel because the nickel's bigger than the dime. But they don't know that the dime is worth more than the nickel. We do the same exact thing as an adult.
Yeah.
Is that we chase things because other people have given us a vision that might be fraudulent.
Yes.
It was literally the reason why I went for my second PhD in artificial intelligence. It was, we don't even know where the stuff is pulling from. We don't even know how good the information is. So because it spits it out, doesn't mean that you should read it or even to use it. And so in this instance, I said, well, somebody's got to govern that. So I want to be a part of the thought leaders that govern it because we are susceptible of believing any and everything, but then we reject things that we should believe. I see it all the time. Mm-hmm. Whereas you can bring legitimate information and, I don't know about that. But then somebody from an entertainment standpoint or a convenience standpoint and say something, And it's like, you know what I heard? And it's, you generically believe that, but you rejected that. And that is a bad pattern in our society business-wise.
So how do you deal with some of the myths that you come across when it comes to society, especially in our community? Because do you feel like we're taught differently? We're exposed to different things, especially in the Black community. And how can we change that narrative? Because I know for me, I've felt like as being younger, that I wasn't necessarily awarded some of the same opportunities, and I didn't have the same tools at my dispense when I was younger. Do you still see that in our community, and how do you deal with that?
This is a tough conversation. It's one that I have regularly. My position is typically unpopular. I don't mind the arguments. I do mind when I'm talking on a podcast where I can't see my audience. So when I say something, I don't know the shock value that they're going to receive when I say it. But I will say that coming from the blackest city in our nation, I can't be more pro-Black when it comes to my position of how I see our culture, but I also can't be more frustrated with our behaviors.
Mm-hmm.
And the more I experience, the more frustrated I get.
Mm-hmm.
When you've had the privilege, and I call it a privilege, to do business in Brazil and do business in Italy and do business in Japan and do business in Toronto, the Philippines. I mean, I can keep going. The fact that I've seen these places, I've been there, I've seen them, I've watched how they work, China, and I come back and I look at us and I think, what the heck is our problem? It really is irritating. And when I say what the heck is our problem, I'm looking in the camera, y'all. Don't be mad at me. I'm not in a trust that I'm not. I'm not fake either. But we are a culture that have resisted the pattern that the world has already set for 1,000 years.
Mm-hmm.
We want to do things in a way that literally goes against the current. So for an example, if we were legitimately talking white and Black, which typically we think that that's the only two categories everything falls at, white people and Black people, and that's bad by itself. But white people have conquered so much and we've never asked why. We've only been mad that they've done it and we haven't counteracted. And you're like, well, what they need to give us is, and they took from us. And then I'm like, we never studied the playbook to figure out what they did. That's stupid. But when you say it, it's like, so what you trying to say? My first degree was in history. I've been to Africa. I've been to the original place where the original slaves were traded. I know what I'm talking about academically and experientially.
Yes.
And the narratives that we create where our slavery are just false. They're false from white people. They're false from Black people. Everybody's throwing false narratives at each other. What's true then, Doc? What's true is we participated in our own bondage, legitimately participated in it and had a helping hand in our demise. Well, in that instance, what lessons did we not take? Well, we know that the other cultures, from an intellectual standpoint, a written documentation standpoint, and a business standpoint, took all that more seriously than we have. And we still don't. I've had arguments as recently as this month about why education isn't important for Black folk. And I'm like, I understand. Well, you don't need no education for real to make this money for real. And I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about, because statistically, I can legitimately prove to you where that's different. Or how we engage in politics, or how we engage in big business, or how we deal with intellectual property and our ability to protect things that of knowledge and be able to do that in a way that usurps trends to where we become the trendsetter to where they have to follow us. I'll give you an example of what I mean. How many times have you heard, don't be a weirdo, just legitimately tell me, how many times have you heard somebody say, will you support my business?
100 million?
Yeah, white people that make good money don't say that. They don't want you to support their business. They place their business in a way that forces you to engage with it. And it's only about transactions and currency, and they do it in a way that's based on your behaviors according to the industry in which you engage. There is no support. So stop worrying about who's going to support your business and build a business that actually matters. Do that. Stop connecting your business to cultural things. But we're cultural people. Yeah, take the money that you get from running a legitimate business and then pump it back into your culture. No different than what Jews do.
Yes.
No different than what the Amish do. No different than what the Mormons do. Like, there are full communities that are thriving at a significantly greater level than us. Last I counted, 2,071 billionaires, 13 were black, and none of us compared to the top. We were literally at the bottom rung. Why? Because the types of businesses we engage in were entertainment and athletic driven. Probably should stop doing that if we want to compete. We may want to jump into other things. We've got immigrants like Elon Musk topping the charts. Why? Because he's like, I'll just do businesses that force them to participate. And the rest of the world gets that. I would be happy if we started doing.
So, we talk to everybody. We bring a coach. You can be a rapper. You can be a singer. You can be a clothing designer. You can be any. We talk to everybody, right? I want to tell our public and tell our people what he just said is so valuable, because we promote that and we push that. Business is universal. Business is universal. Stop thinking the only way to get out of poverty is through your ability to play a sport or sing or dance. We got to change that narrative. We are brilliant. We are architects. We are able to do so much more. We have created so many things, technology, our STEM programs and things like that. But those are so much more business ideas than just what we see. I look at business as, where is the need? Where's the need? And you find the need, and then you create the business based upon the need. And that's where it starts. So what you just said, I just wanted the community to really see, and everybody who watches this is really see that it's more to it than that. And that's so valuable. I'm so glad that you said it and put that out there, because regardless if you like it, you don't like it, it's the truth. It's the truth, it's reality.
There was something I was hoping that I could find pretty quickly in my files, but it's going to take me a moment. But it was a passage from Thomas Jefferson. So because I can't read it to you verbatim, you'll just have to look it up and find it yourself. But it was from the Notes to Virginia. And it's something that I know very well. And the Notes of Virginia was essentially like an address to the nation, a State of the Union address the president did. And he's talking about, should he integrate, or should the Union integrate slaves into normal society? And he made a case that they should not. And it wasn't because he hated blacks based on the statement. It was based on observations of what he thought our characteristics were and the characteristics of whites and what that would do to a society. And one part that he put in there, a lot of it was very, very hard to listen to depending on your temperament. But he says that blacks lack forethought. We can't even see danger until it hits them, which is what makes us so easy to capture. That's essentially what he talks about in the Notes of Virginia. And so I've read excerpts of this to my patients. I've done it to certain groups that I've been in to essentially say, hey, let's really pay attention to what we're talking about. You had mentioned something that's near and dear to me, athletics. I played sports. I played sports to some very high levels. And that's how I ended up out of Detroit, was scholarships to play football and run track. But make no mistake, my entire mindset was still business driven. I knew that me being able to run fast or catch a football was a business transaction. And I had to find a way to leverage that business transaction. I wouldn't say that I created that thought. My father, who was a postal worker and worked at the post office and never took a day off, didn't even see me play high school sports because he worked. But that was were thoughts that he implemented and said, no, we got something better for you. And so he fought for that reality for me. And so I'm a product of things that my father said. And you started the podcast saying how there's a lot of people that do not have that type of opportunity. They don't have that type of exposure. But I question, I no longer think, this is an opinion based on narratives that I see every day, I no longer believe that we don't have the excuse of what we're not exposed to. I wonder, and I've said this plenty of times, I've seen young black men that don't have a bank account that walk by a bank every day, but they can roll a blunt. And you saw both of them, and you were attracted to one versus the other. I had an argument for about an hour and a half about Colin Kaepernick. I was really irritated by his documentary on how he was depicted that he saw Allen Iverson and saw himself in Allen Iverson. And I said, how? He didn't see himself in Michael Jordan? One guy had a suit on and was the most popular figure in all of basketball and literally was a walking business. But you saw yourself in the one that was shot. When you live in a suburban neighborhood with 2 white parents, I don't understand that. That's a behavior of rebellion, which we have that rebellious spirit as a culture. And that's the part I'm irritated by, is that there are no excuses for not understanding our bank account.
Yes.
There's no excuses for like, man, where I'm going to work. No, jobs are available. That we're in our history where there's more jobs than people. So we don't want to hear about recession. If you talk about recession, most people don't even know the definition of recession. It just means that our gross domestic product had 2 negative quarters, had nothing to do with the amount of spending or the amount of jobs available. But we use the stuff incorrectly, and we refuse to participate in a way that lands us on higher ground. You tell me now, in our information age, what we don't have access to.
Hey, I say all the time, man, knowledge is power, and y'all can find out anything you want to know. Most of the things that we talk about is public knowledge.
Right, so we just don't want to know it. And us not wanting to know it is an us problem, which is why I stay irritated. It's like, stop wanting to know the stuff that doesn't help you. Start wanting to know the stuff that does help.
Yes.
But psychologically, we have not broken that chain. We've done it in pockets, but we haven't done it in large areas. We got a scenario where our country is 77% white with 13% black. Black men make up, I think, 6% of that. So the reality is we don't even have enough soldiers to almost act like it ain't important. We need 100% of our population to care. Literally 100% of the population. I just went to a Bearcat game out in BYU, Provo, Utah. Almost no one out there has been to Provo, Utah. I can almost guarantee that. Well, that's a Mormon community out there. The entire community wore nothing but blue jeans and blue shirts. Everywhere we went, they congratulated us for being there and being a guest. They provided free ice cream, free Gatorades, free Cougar Tails. They sung our fight song for us. They cheered for our team when they came out. It was a culture behavior that I had never experienced, and I've been a lot of places. This was my second best experience, and like Dubai was number 1. As I look at these things, and I think, as a culture, 100% of us could behave. 100% of us could perform. When you talk about our talent, that's all we ever talk about is talent, and talent is the most insulting word anybody can have. Why am I saying that?
Because it does not, because we use it for our gain, and it only helps. We only use it for black people.
Part of it. Talent means you ain't did jack crap. That means you possibly could do a thing. But I wouldn't be talking about your talent if you did it. I'd be talking about what you done. So all you're ever talking about is the potential of what a person has, what somebody could possibly do. You could be anything, you could block. Just get the stuff done. We should never kill another black person. We should stop divorcing. We should stop walking around talking about what we ain't got, what somebody ain't gave us. 100% of every single resource we ever need, we currently have. We're not like Israel right now, dealing with our minds.
And it's crazy that you say that, because I watch it every morning. I watch CNN News every morning. And, you know, I listened to them today, and they said, we don't have enough water. They said, we don't have enough water. The pipeline was blown up. We don't have enough water. And we take for granted those things. I cut the faucet on right now, water's gonna come out. Clean water will come out. I can drink it, I can bathe it, I can do whatever I want to do. And they don't have water, a necessity to live. They don't have it. They gotta get it shipped in, they gotta figure it out. And it's like, when you say that, like, yeah, you got talent or whatever we want to call it, but these people don't have the necessities to even live, to get the education, to get but they're thriving in some areas like that.
Look, they don't have, they're trying to figure out what they will drink, when we got a scenario where we can have 7 businesses in 48 hours if we wanted to. Literally, you could just go, I got all these businesses, and I can put up 4 or 5 websites, and I can gig my way through it, and I can earn revenue right now. Any human that's older than 16 years old can earn $1 today doing a real thing.
Yes.
And there's areas on our planet Earth, and it's not like a few areas. There's a bunch of areas on every continent where like that's just not a reality. So when we think about our country in comparison, is our historical past dark? Yes. Was there a time when there were things we were just not allowed to do? Yes. And is that jacked up? Yes. That ain't 2023. It ain't 2024. You got a scenario to where you wanted $1 billion, create $1 billion business. Just create it and get her done. Is that thing gonna be easy? No. But it ain't easy for the white people either. It ain't easy for nobody. Right? We're not a black business hospital, and that bothers me because every time I show up somewhere, they see my black face, and I get put into some minority program, or I got to deal with MBEs and all the rest of the stuff. And I'm like, no, I didn't go get a black doctor. Right? I didn't go get a black certification in finance, and I didn't write 6 black books. Right? I did stuff because it's a formalized reality in our country. So if I go back to my original point, just to make it clear and to be able to cut it off, is that we literally have to learn the playbook of the United States of America and understand how to behave that way. We talk racism all the time. The problem is it's more classism than it is racism. I was told this one time, I will not tell the name, it'll implicate him and it might cause me a problem. But he is a billionaire that every one of us know. He and I was talking, he loved everything I had to say. He said, the only problem is you don't make enough money to talk to. He told me that to my face. I said, I'll see you in a few years. The reality is, it's no differently than who do you date when you're worth 100 million. When you work for 100 million, you just can't date anybody. You got to date somebody in your class, right? So you look and you say, okay, oh man, Travis Kelce dating Taylor Swift, and it's a big thing. Well, Taylor Swift worked 800 mil. Travis Kelce is not, but we see him on every commercial now. His brother got every documentary. He hosts Saturday Night Live, right? They're upping his value so that their class can match. He can't get cut from the Chiefs. It's still there, right? So we're not dealing with racism. It feels like it with low-class people. Higher class is class. We have to get ourselves into a different class. Then it won't matter. The Chinese not looking for people to give them handouts. Arabs are looking for people to give them handouts. You understand? That's not the reality in the world. We're asking for that. We should stop doing that.
Man, I hope y'all really watching and paying attention, because this right here, this is what we need. And sometimes I know it doesn't, my mom used to say this, and my mom is such an amazing person. She say the truth hurt. She would say the truth hurt. And I remember she used to whoop me, right? Did whoop me. She said, I ain't whooping you because you did. I'm whooping you because I love you. I couldn't understand that. So y'all just got to whoop it. Y'all just got to whoop it. And I want y'all to understand, we're whooping y'all because we love y'all. And I think he gave y'all so much vital information. And I know it doesn't sound the way you want it to sound. It's not all pretty, and it don't have no lights on it, and it don't have no whipped cream and bowls and all of that stuff. But the reality of it is, it's the truth. And we have to start living in the truth. And we have to start taking that and stop making excuses for us saying, you know what? He hurt my feelings because he said it like that. So now I'm not going to do it.
Well, there's a lot of people that work on that relational belief. You don't know me like that. Oh, yeah, we live in a way to where that communal, that tribal behavior governs all of our reality. But the problem is the rest of our society doesn't. The United States of America is an actual corporation. If you don't understand that the country you live in is actually a corporation, and that when you are when you are born, you are purchased to be traded, not blacks, all people based on the social security number. Why am I telling you this? Is that the whole thing is a currency. So we have to think in terms of currency in order to exist in the reality. I was giving some gentlemen this example today. Part of my first doctorate is in leadership, and we're talking about leadership styles. So typically when I'm having a speaking event and we talk about leadership, I would say, okay, does anybody know leadership styles? What style are you? And I would get answers like, well, I'm a vocal leader, or I lead by action, and none of that's a style. That's just a preference of a characteristic. So then if I ask them, and styles I'm not going to go into it, but transactional, transformational, autocratic, democratic, share, a bunch of them. Well, Every time I bring up autocratic, I've asked the audience, do they like autocratic? And they're like, what is that? And it's a dictator.
Mm-hmm.
It's my way or the highway. You do what I tell you, and that's it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a micromanager. I ask people all the time, do you like that leadership style?
Mm-hmm.
Ty, what do you think they say? They hate that.
No, they say they hate it.
Hey, that's terrible. It's garbage. It's not good.
Until they realize what they really do.
Right? So then in this instance, I said, okay, what about the kindergarten class? Should that be democratic? Or should the kindergarten teacher be autocratic? They're like, okay, well, all right, that makes sense. All right. What about a coach on a team? Should he be listening to all the players, or should the coach tell you what to do and that's not it? All right, well, I get it. What about military? Should everybody have different orders, or when we're on that field, we hear one voice and we do one thing? By the time I give them 15 examples, they're like, autocratic ain't so bad.
Yeah.
Like that's your lack of understanding of where you are. Now, autocratic doesn't work when there's a team of experts.
Mm-hmm.
And we're all specialists and we've been called to do a project. We might have a project manager, but that project manager is deferring to those experts. So laissez-faire might be the best. What's laissez-faire? Laissez-faire is the absence of leadership. We only provide a structure and we let you go.
Mm-hmm.
That doesn't work well in the kindergarten class. That doesn't work well in the military. But it would work well with a team of specialists. So it depends on what you're looking at. So I'm only saying that, all of that to say this. You're in the United States of America. The whole thing is about money. It ain't never been about nothing else. So if you don't have it, you have a work. Money don't make you happy. It doesn't, but you cannot live without it. There's no school, there's no medicine, there's no home, there's no food. You can't do anything without it. So you gotta find a way to carve your niche based on your skill set, your interest within the framework of what's been built, and we cannot buck that, and no one's gonna finance your demise.
You said it. I mean, they have to understand and they have to respect it. I say this and people don't like it when I say it, but I don't care. Donald Trump is not, my vote for necessarily president. But business, I've learned a lot of good business from him. And I'm saying business because when you dissect his stuff, when you really look at it, he does the research or have a team of people that goes and finds whether it's a loophole, whatever. But he said something very important, and I heard it. He said, I didn't write the law.
Mm-hmm. That was regarding taxes.
Yeah, I didn't write it. All I did was find what y'all wrote and used it according to the laws that y'all wrote. Mm-hmm. So why am I being punished for something that y'all wrote?
Wait a second. Let's go a little further, which, once again, let me look into this camera so you know, I am not supporting him because
exactly.
From a character standpoint, we don't share the same values. But to your point, what he was really saying is that, no, it's not so much that y'all wrote it. It's more about the fact that I'm actually doing what you wanted me to do.
Mm-hmm.
Me not showing you my taxes is what you're telling me to do because you wrote it in a way to where that would exist, which means I'm actually behaving the desired behavior. The people that don't desire are the people that don't know, and then they get mad because they feel like they got shown. Mm-hmm. It was funny. One time I was in corporate. This is before I created the business hospital. I would have 14 allowances on my tax recordings, and the IRS got mad at me because I didn't want them to deduct any of my money. Mm-hmm. So they sent a letter to my employer and said, we're going to need for you to start reducing your allowances, so therefore you can start having some contributions, and therefore they can give me a return later. And I said, no, I owe my money. You don't owe my money. Just tell me what I owe you at the end of the year and I'll cut you a check. Mm-hmm. Because the money in my account earning my interest is more important to me than you owing my money, earning interest off my money, and then giving me back what you think I deserve to get back. So they left me alone. But how many times have they sent that letter to someone that didn't know, they felt scared, and they started giving the IRS the money they shouldn't get? Now, I'm not telling you all to go do that. Why? Because I'm not your accountant. I'm not your attorney. I don't know your financial scenario. I have no idea what your picture looks like, but I know mine. Mm-hmm. And so because I know mine and I know the laws, I know how to govern it. Mm-hmm. So they don't get mad when you know the laws. They just find the dumbest that don't.
Yes.
That's what they do. Don't be the dumb. because you get mad if somebody calls you a duck. You don't. It's like being mad if somebody calls you slow. If you're not faster than everyone else, you're slow.
Yeah.
So find another way to win. So if I'm slow, I'll be stronger. If I'm not stronger, I'll be smarter. Find a different way to win the game. And what you're talking about with Trump is that's all he's ever done. And when he can't find a way, he just bullies his way.
Yeah.
We get mad at that, but isn't that the pattern of the U.S.?
Always have been.
So we're mad at a person that's actually putting out the blueprint of what's always happened. Somebody might say, it ain't right. My response to it ain't right is ain't right to who? It's not right to you based on your value proposition. The problem is, did we all agree that freedoms was the thing we would stand on? So if I've got the freedom to do things that are quote unquote good, that gives me the freedom to do things that are quote unquote bad. So we got to be able to take them both in balance, night and day, left and right, up and down. So it's hard to get mad at a person that's exploiting you when they have the freedom to exploit.
Exactly.
Just don't be exploited.
Yeah.
Right? It's a different mindset of we are no longer slaves. What about systematic things? You don't have to participate in the system. That's where we are at 23.
And you said it earlier. You don't have to do it because guess what? Everything is at your fingertips to learn how to get past that.
Literally. Not hypothetically.
Yes, literally. Literally. Everybody has access to the internet and to information, to books, nobody's stopping you from learning. They choose to.
Yes. Why do I don't learn that way? Nobody ever told me, or I didn't. And it's, how did you learn whatever you know? Yes. When the exposure hit you, and this is what I think about exposure. One of our mantras in the business hospital is there are 4 pills like you take medicine.
Mm-hmm.
And that's innovation, information, ideation, and imagination. And I always tell people imagination is our most important one because that's the part of the brain that allows you to think about things and to wonder and to dream and say, you know, I wonder if I could. And at that moment is when your world expands.
Yeah.
I find that we don't even have imagination of things that don't even take imagination. Like you never wonder, like, I wonder what they do in that place. Or I wonder how he got that. Or you don't even wonder? Then you don't even ask? So then you just sit and say, whatever? That is bad on us. One example of that. So I do my own trade. I can do everything from dividends to options. I take responsibility for my own portfolio. That was not a thing you could do in like 7-2. You had to be a financial advisor to get the information in order to do it, not to mention the information or the Dow and the S&P. You had to wait till the newspaper was printed. Then by the time it got to you, the market changed 200 times by the time you got to your newspaper. So it was almost an impossibility to do it. Not now.
Fingertips.
I mean, you got Robinhood and Acorns and Motley Fool and I mean, heck, one of the companies that I love build, the Practical Investor, download the Practical Investor. Simple, show you how to never lose money in the stock market. But the point is, all of this stuff exists. It didn't exist not even 40 years ago. So all of the nobody told me, you got a phone? You found Candy Crush?
Yeah.
Why didn't you find?
You found Instagram. Who was on there, why she was doing that, and why he was doing that.
Because you wondered. You had imagination on the entertainment side.
Yes.
Use that same imagination to every other side you've ignored. They're like, why am I ignoring this? And go into it.
Yeah.
To say, how do I fit in this? And how does it fit? And this is most important. How does it fit the country I'm in? Because if it doesn't fit the country I'm in, individually, it is too difficult to try to turn this country upside on its head. We believe that we have the power to do that. And I'll give this example. We've always followed a leader. Where's Dr. King? Where's Malcolm X? We always had to have a leader. Now, all the other cultures do that. If we're always waiting for a leader, that means that we have to be led by something. Then we get mad when another culture leads us in the way that they want us to go. We got to take responsibility for all rescue.
And man, you have been, when I say this is by far one of the most, I'm just so happy to have you here because I think having our community, the world, because we broadcast it, it's going everywhere, but to have individuals, especially in the business community and our people to be able to see this and be able to get these gems and be able to understand and now get the motivation, because we say this, and this is why we brought this here, is because now there's literally no excuse. There's no excuse for us not achieving the next step in whatever you want to do in life. You literally have it at your fingertips. So, I thank you I thank you. I typically do some things. Number one, I just take a second, that camera, and just tell everybody what you doing, how you do it, where you doing, everything from, let them know how to get in contact with you, because what you do is so phenomenal and they need to be able to get in contact with you.
So the Business Hospital is 2 nonprofits and 1 for-profit. The Business Hospital Institute is like a cancer research institute. That's where all our business information comes in. That's a C3, 501c3. The Business Hospital is a 501c6. There's 27 different types of nonprofits. We have 2 of them. That's where our membership goes. So if anybody wants to be an in-network member for treatment, you can. And then Dr. Baker and Associates, the Business Hospital, is for elective treatment. That's our for-profit. Essentially, because we're 2 nonprofits now, we subsidize the treatment. So we have business aid, which is like Medicaid. And if you are thinking about creating a business, or you have a business and you haven't made over $100,000, we'll provide treatment to you for $2,000 for the whole calendar year. There's nothing else to charge you outside of that. That's 365, 24/7. We will build that business. If you make more than $100,000, your copay is $4,000. And if you make more than $1 million, your copay is $6,000. So it's obvious we're not trying to get rich off you. We get our dollars from subsidies by federal government, large entities that care about your existence. You can reach us at thebusinesshospital.com and put in a message there, or you can email me directly at Dr. Baker, which is drbaker @thebusinesshospital.com. I answer all emails same day. We have emergency services, so it's pretty simple. What we're working on now, Ty, is that we're working on large municipalities to take care of certain regions. So we've got a presence now in all of the Midwest, down in the South, and on the East Coast to offer the treatment to thousands of businesses at one time. We're working with some large conglomerates and some other stakeholders that really want to see small business thrive. Small business, by definition, is 50 million and under, 500 employees or less. So we are really working hard on that. And ultimately, our goal is to have an act passed through our business hospital to make sure that there's relief for all small businesses based on their tax implications. So that means you need to make more money. So therefore, there is a tax that can come from you. So therefore, you can then draw treatment to make sure that your business never closes and that you always thrive and that you're as efficient as possible.
Man, that's phenomenal, and I just thank you. So I'm gonna tell you, I always do this at the end, and I give my, cause y'all know me, I give my little spiel and how I kind of just tell what I feel and give a final thought. So blessed to have you here, and I think that you do such amazing things, and you have such words of wisdom. I would be honored if you give our final thought.
Final thought is make sure that you take control of the vision and the future that you have. Don't let anybody else program your vision. That's why it's yours. And that you guard that vision as if your life legitimately depends on that vision. Create a new vision. If you don't like who you were, you don't like who you are, reinvent and create a new vision for you and protect it with all that you have. That's my final thought.
Man, and that's how we do it here. Hey, if y'all ever need us, y'all know where to find us at. We want to say again to my partner, my businessman, the other half of No Excuse Podcast, Sully at Affair Films. He's doing this thing. He's amazing. If you ever need any video, audio, recording, anything, make sure you go to amerifilm.com, look him up, and get him on your team. But he's on mine right now, and he ain't going nowhere. We are a dynamic duo. We make it happen. So until next time, tune in. We love you.